cool down, put it on.
Up. The cold ass water. Get some video of that ice tank.
I did.
You talking shit on your water cars for my whole life.
Got all iced up, ready to go, right?
Here we are. With the fan on.
Yeah, I guess we should.
Oh yeah, just make it Arctic in here.
Yeah.
So we can cheat.
Go. see?
Everything's the same. The the manifold temperature is way better. It's crazy. It's down like 30 degrees, but it makes the same power.
Wow.
So one thing I might do is just mess with a little bit of ignition, see if it wants more now with the colder temp.
Okay, so, ladies and gents, let's look over the dyno plots, and then we will go into the data logs, and we will see what happened, or at least what I discern happened, and what we know happened. So, this was the first hit here where it just spun real bad. As you can see, it just a nice dip, and then I just aborted run early. Here again, you can see it was spinning, so I lifted early. It still made 483 spinning bad, and then this last one here, I just let it cruise long enough till we got some good heat on the roller and the dyno, and drew out what it always does, approximately 630 rear wheel with more timing in it. The stock computer, it's on the holley now. The stock computer would do something funny where I could put timing into this thing and it just didn't seem to make any power. It was interesting. I'm not blaming the stock computer, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. It could be something with speed density or some stuff I don't know about the E38 ECU. It could be a lot of things, but I do a lot of this. I see a lot of it back and forth. And what was interesting to me is this car was running approximately the same boost, and it would only like about 12 degrees. I could put more in it, and it just wouldn't make the power. And I was like, man, this is interesting. I wonder why it's not making any more or not taking any more. So what I had in it for a while was what approximately made 600 tire, and then for the dyno pulls, since my good pass on the dyno was 629, I set it up to run that amount of ignition and everything else, and it did make 629. So then, right after that, we wanted to do an experiment, which I say in the video there, where we ice down the intercooler tank. And my inlet temps are actually very good with how big the tank is and how well my heat exchanger works and a lot of other things. So even when it's really hot out, my temperature might go up, but it quickly recovers, so it always has good inlet temps. So we iced it way down, and I was expecting to make more than this, but it makes sense after it happens. So here is the initial hit, the 628 or 629, and then it actually made within 1 horsepower. It made a little bit more. I see I rolled into it at different speeds here, and I couldn't find the tach input the whole time I was there since they cleaned up the dyno a lot. I found it at the end of the day, so forgive me. A torque number would be awesome to get. I know it makes approximately 500 foot-pounds mostly everywhere from the other poles, but it only picked up a little bit and then made roughly the same peak. So what's neat to know is icing mine down is fruitless when the temperature is cold, at least. When it's hotter out and you're at an event or drag racing this thing, which I don't do, it might help. That'll be interesting. Maybe one day we can revisit that. But it's cool to know that it's not giving me any huge gains by icing this thing down. It doesn't have out of control temperature. It doesn't struggle to make power with the temperatures it does have. So then, just for a sanity check, on the next hit, I pulled a degree or two. We can verify this in the data log. I'm like, well, let me pull a degree or two and see if we're over center or what, what's going on here, or under timed. So I pulled a degree or two and it dropped off. I'm like, oh, well, okay, so maybe it wants more. So then, what we did here was, this was the 608 baseline. So instead of the 1 or 2 I took out, I put 3 in. So I put another degree in, and it jumped up to 644. So what we did see, I noticed something funny at the top end here. On my data log and everything, like my boost kind of fell off and RPM got kind of funny. And I just didn't know if it wanted to spin all the way up top here or something else. I'm like, maybe it's my clutch or something. We'll figure it out. So I'm like, so to back this up, we'll put another degree in it. So I put another degree in, approximately like 5,000 RPM and up, and it started to pick up, but then started to get funny again. And then we smelled my clutch. So it seems like it wants to make good power and it wants more ignition, but I was like, this gain isn't significant, so let's try one more. And then I'm like, oh, we're spinning the clutch. So that's why we're not seeing appropriate, we might see more power per degree. So I was like, well, I'll back it back down to like 608 rear wheel. The clutch was holding pretty good. It's funny that I got just enough fuel, which we'll talk about in a second, to make just enough power to spin the clutch. So this has the single disc clutch in it that I originally installed, and it's only rated to hold like 500 foot-pounds. So it's doing a fantastic job. I'm at a funny crossroads with this car because I figured this would give me enough fueling, and I totally neglected to think about my clutch. So this was the 630 rear wheel hit. And this is, I was just letting the tires warm up because it was spinning. So here is, yeah, you can see right when I roll into it, makes 13 pounds. And up here, 15 pounds at 7,000. And we're a little bit over 100% duty cycle. We have 17 or 18 degrees in it. Fuel pressure is falling off, which I just installed this two-step brushless, so I was wondering if my fuel pump was coming on. And I did figure out that the second stage of the fuel pump is coming on, so I'm like, man, I must have a supply issue. So I was looking at a lot of stuff, and it looks like there's a 3/8 line on the G. The connectors are 3/8, but what I learned from LOJ after asking him is the stock feed line's 5/16, and it's returnless, so the regulator's in the bucket, in the tank, and it's trying to push through a 5/16. Mind you, this is 60, 70% alcohol. I have alcohol on here somewhere. It's in there. It's in flex fuel, 69%. So this seems to be the limit of 5/16 line, I would assume. So what I'd like to do is I basically need a twin disc clutch. I need to do my fuel system. And then from there, we can see how much power it's capable of, possibly. And then if I have fuel left over, I can spray it. I'm at a crossroads. Do I want to spend a bunch of money on this car or just leave it at 600 wheel and see if the clutch holds for a while? Obviously, if the clutch is burned up and it has to come out, do I do a twin disc then? Do I just try a more aggressive single disc? I have a lot of options to weigh. The car is pretty much done as is. It's okay. It's a driver. It's great. The only thing that doesn't function right now is the air conditioning, which LOJ and I are working on doing right now. But yeah, anyway, we'll go back to this. So I couldn't figure out, I'm like, why is my fuel pressure dying off? So after we get into these pulls here, here's what made 650. I think I had approximately 19 degrees up top. You can see the boost falling off. So this is, boost is falling off a tiny bit up here. I don't know if the throttle's shutting. I guess I have to look at pedal position and some other things, because this car is drive-by-wire, and I haven't really done a lot of Holley stuff with drive-by-wire. But it falls off. I don't know if that's belt slip. The other thing I'm doing to this car is converting it to 8 rib. So I'm doing a slightly, I'll explain that whole process when I get it, but I'm doing like a 10% overdrive. It's 8 rib, and then converting the accessories to 8 rib. It's something LOJ has already developed for the blower stuff, so I want to do that. I want to get the 8 rib going, because it looks like here that this is belt slip above 6,500. And then also I was getting clutch slip, so I don't know if the clutch was spinning and the engine was losing load or what's going on. So there's two key factors. Fuel pressure is dipping off, but it's doing better. Manifold temp was doing rockstar, 61 to 81, yeah, or 61 to 85. Yeah, it looks like I had approximately 20 in it. It wanted more, but we just couldn't get it. So it'll be neat to, I definitely want to do the fuel feed. That'll be cheap. And I definitely want to do the 8 rib. I'm already committed on that, and I guess I need to do a better single disc or a double disc clutch upgrade to this thing. But part of me is like, how far do I want to go with this? Because then once I have fuel and clutch, it's like, oh man, well, it'll be nice to spray on top if I have a injector deficit, which it's looking like. So, you know, we learned one thing and we lost another. So the brushless can definitely go farther than this, but I learned that the car has a 5/16 line. So yeah, that's not big enough. That's a concern. So I hope everybody learned from this. A couple steps forward, couple steps back. The car is pretty much in the same place. It definitely has more fuel, so it's more reliable there, but needs some other things for more testing. So I figured I would let it sit and drive it, get the AC working, and finish the truck, and then circle back around to this thing or the